Most people believe that when a civilization disappears, it leaves behind ruins, records, monuments, or at least clear traces of its existence. But history is not always that clean. Some civilizations vanish so completely that they left almost nothing behind. No written records, no identifiable cities, no clear explanations. And that is where the real mystery begins. Stay with this story, because once you realize how many advanced societies disappeared almost without a trace, the idea of known history will never feel complete again. And if hidden pasts pull you in, keep watching closely. Human history is often taught as a straight line. Stone tools turn into bronze, bronze turns into iron, villages become cities, and progress marches forward. But archaeology tells a very different story. Across the world, there are gaps, massive blank spaces where civilization should exist, but don't. Not because they were primitive, but because something erased them so thoroughly that even memories struggle to survive. And if that already has your attention, stay with the journey. One of the strangest aspects of these lost civilizations is how sudden their disappearance appears to be. Archaeological layers show thriving societies, complex tools, trade networks, and organized life, followed by silence. No gradual decline, no slow collapse, just an abrupt end. Homes abandoned, tools left behind, cities emptied. Something happened, and whatever it was, it didn't give people time to prepare. Take the Indus Valley Civilization, one of the largest ancient civilizations ever discovered. At its peak, it covered a vast region with carefully planned cities, advanced drainage systems, standardized bricks, and evidence of long-distance trade. Yet despite its sophistication, it left behind almost no deciphered written records. We do not know its rulers. We do not know its religion with certainty. We do not even know why it disappeared. Around 1900 BCE, its cities were gradually abandoned, but the reasons remain unclear. Climate change, shifting rivers, economic collapse. None fully explain the scale of disappearance. A civilization that rivaled Egypt and Mesopotamia faded into near silence. Even more disturbing are civilizations that left behind far less evidence than the Indus Valley. Across the Amazon rainforest, researchers are now discovering signs of vast ancient societies, geometric earthworks, road systems, agricultural planning, hidden beneath dense jungle. For centuries, historians believed the Amazon was too harsh to support advanced civilization. That belief was wrong. Entire populations once lived there, engineered landscapes, and then vanished. The jungle reclaimed everything. Wood rotted, earth settled, stone was scarce. Without constant human presence, nature erased the evidence. And if nature can erase civilization that quickly, what else has been lost? In North America, mysterious mound-building cultures flourished for thousands of years. They constructed enormous earthworks, some aligned with astronomical events, others spanning kilometers. Yet many of these cultures left no written language that survived. When Europeans arrived, these civilizations were already gone. Their descendants carried fragments of memory, but not full histories. Why they collapsed, disease, climate shifts, conflict, remains debated. Their silence is haunting. Across the Pacific, the civilization of Easter Island tells a similarly unsettling story. Massive stone statues stand as the last witnesses of society that once thrived. But the people who built them collapsed, leaving behind little explanation. Environmental destruction? Social conflict? External contact? The evidence is fragmentary. The truth may never be fully known. What makes these disappearances especially unsettling is that many of these civilizations were not small or isolated. They were organized, innovative, and resilient. They adapted to their environments. They planned cities. They managed resources. Yet something overwhelmed them. Sometimes the explanation seems natural. Climate shifts can devastate agriculture. Droughts can collapse economies. Floods can destroy settlements. But in many cases, the timing doesn't align neatly. Civilizations disappear during periods when conditions should have allowed survival. That suggests more complex causes, or combinations of disasters. There is also the uncomfortable possibility that some civilizations did leave evidence, but it was never preserved. Writing systems may have existed on materials that decay, wood, cloth, bark, or leather. Cities built from mud brick, timber, or earth can vanish within centuries. If stone was rare, memory was fragile. And this raises a disturbing thought. Our understanding of ancient history may be biased towards civilizations that built in stone. Those that did may be underrepresented or completely missing from the historical record. Another factor historians quietly acknowledge is that archaeology itself has limits. Excavation requires access. Many potential sites lie beneath modern cities, oceans, deserts, or politically restricted areas. Entire civilizations may still be buried, waiting to be discovered, or lost forever beneath concrete and infrastructure. What truly challenges modern thinking is how often myths and legends hint at these missing civilizations. Stories of vanished peoples, lost lands, great floods, and sudden destruction appear across cultures. They are often dismissed as symbolic. But when archaeology begins to uncover physical evidence that aligns with these stories, dismissal becomes harder. Civilizations may not vanish without reason, but their reasons may not be preserved in ways we recognize as evidence. And if that idea makes you uneasy, stay with the story, because this is only the first layer. As we move deeper, we will encounter civilizations that left behind technology without context, structures without explanation, and cultural footprints without names. The deeper we go, the clearer it becomes that disappearance is not the exception in human history. It may be the rule. If this first part has already shifted how you think about the ancient world, stay curious. Keep watching, and don't forget to subscribe, because the civilizations that vanish without a trace are only beginning to reveal themselves. What if the most powerful ancient civilizations did not slowly fade away, but were wiped out by forces they could neither predict nor control? Imagine thriving cities, advanced knowledge, and organized societies, gone within a few generations, sometimes even faster. If that thought makes you pause, stay with this story, because what erased these civilizations could still erase us today. History often prefers simple explanations: wars, invasions, economic decline. But modern science is revealing a far more unsettling truth. Some civilizations disappeared because the Earth itself turned against them. Climate shifts, megadroughts, volcanic eruptions, floods, and sudden environmental collapses didn't just damage societies. They erased them so completely that historians are still struggling to reconstruct what really happened. One of the clearest examples comes from the ancient Maya civilization. For centuries, the Maya dominated large parts of Central America. They built monumental cities, developed advanced mathematics, tracked celestial movements with stunning accuracy, and created complex calendars. This was not a fragile society. It was powerful, intelligent, and deeply connected to its environment. And then, around the 8th and 9th centuries, many major Maya cities were abandoned, not destroyed by invasion, not conquered by enemies, just left behind. Archaeological evidence suggests prolonged drought struck the region. Rainfall decreased dramatically. Reservoirs dried up. Crops failed. But drought alone does not explain everything. The Maya had survived environmental challenges before. What made this collapse different was scale. Climate stress combined with population pressure, political instability, and overuse of resources created a chain reaction. Cities emptied. Knowledge centers disappeared. Writing declined. What survived were fragments, ruins rising from jungle, silent and incomplete. And if the story feels familiar, stay focused, because it repeats itself across the world. In Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization, some of the earliest advanced societies emerged between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. These civilizations mastered irrigation, law, writing, and governance. Yet many early Mesopotamian cities vanished long before recorded history could fully preserve them. Here, climate change played a quieter but equally devastating role. Over-irrigation caused soil salinization. Farmland turned infertile. Crop yields collapsed. Once productive regions became unlivable. Cities dependent on agriculture could not survive. People migrated. Power structures fell apart. Over time, entire cultures disappeared, absorbed, or forgotten. What makes this especially disturbing is that these societies were not ignorant of their environment. They engineered canals, controlled floods, and optimized agriculture. And still, slow environmental damage destroyed them from within. But not all catastrophes were slow. Some were sudden. Around 1600 BCE, the volcanic eruption of Thera, modern Santorini, was one of the largest in human history. The explosion was so massive that it sent ash across the Mediterranean, triggered tsunamis, and altered climate patterns. The Minoan civilization on Crete, an advanced maritime power with sophisticated architecture and art, was severely impacted. Before the eruption, the Minoans dominated trade routes and cultural influence. Afterward, their power collapsed. Cities were damaged, ports destroyed, agriculture disrupted. Within a relatively short time, the civilization faded from dominance, leaving behind beautiful ruins, but no clear explanation written by the people themselves. And if one volcano could do that, imagine how many similar events history has erased. In China, archaeological evidence points to sudden floods so massive that they overwhelmed early civilizations along the Yellow River. Legends speak of a great flood that destroyed entire societies. For a long time, these stories were dismissed as myth. But recent geological evidence suggests massive flooding events did occur, on a scale capable of destroying early settlements completely. When floods hit societies built from earth, wood, and mud brick, little survives. Entire cultures can vanish, leaving behind only scattered artifacts and stories passed down orally. Then there are the mysterious drought-driven collapses of ancient African civilizations. In regions like the Sahara, archaeological evidence shows that what is now desert was once fertile land, home to lakes, grasslands, and human settlements. Rock art depicts animals and lifestyles impossible in today's climate. As the region dried, populations were forced to migrate. Societies fragmented. Cultural continuity broke. What remained were traces, tools, carvings, forgotten burial sites, without names or recorded histories. And this brings us to a deeply uncomfortable realization. Climate disasters don't need to destroy everything to erase a civilization. They only need to disrupt it long enough for people to leave. Once abandoned, cities decay, materials rot, knowledge disappears. Within centuries, even advanced societies can leave behind almost nothing. If this feels like a warning rather than just history, keep watching, because climate collapse was not the only force at work. Some civilizations faced multiple disasters at once. Earthquakes followed by droughts, floods followed by disease. Environmental stress made societies vulnerable, and once weakened, they could not recover. What is perhaps most chilling is that many of these civilizations likely believed they were stable, right until the moment they weren't. And here's the question historians are increasingly asking, but rarely say out loud. How many advanced civilizations existed before recorded history, only to be erased by catastrophe so completely that we never even learned their names? The archaeological record is not a full story. It is a survival story of what happened to last long enough to be found. Everything else is silence. If this part made you rethink how fragile civilization really is, stay with the journey, because in the next part, we will explore civilizations hidden by jungles, deserts, and oceans, societies that didn't just disappear, but were swallowed by the earth itself. What if some ancient civilizations didn't vanish because they failed, but because they were too well hidden for us to ever fully find them? Imagine entire societies swallowed by jungles, buried under deserts, or drowned beneath rising seas, leaving behind only fragments that modern science is still struggling to interpret. If that thought grips you, stay here, because this part dives into civilizations that didn't just disappear. They were concealed by the planet itself. For a long time, historians believe that most ancient civilizations were already known. Egypt, Mesopotamia, Indus Valley, China. Everything else was assumed to be minor or primitive. But in recent decades, that assumption has been shattered. New technology, satellite imaging, LiDAR scanning, ground-penetrating radar, has revealed something unsettling. The world is full of lost cities we never knew existed. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, for centuries, Europeans believed the region was too hostile to support large civilizations. The jungle was seen as untouched wilderness. But hidden beneath dense vegetation, archaeologists have discovered vast networks of settlements, roads, plazas, canals, and earthworks stretching for miles. These were not small tribes. They were organized societies capable of reshaping landscapes on a massive scale. Some estimates suggest millions of people once lived there. Then disease, colonization, and ecological collapse erased them so thoroughly that the forest reclaimed everything. By the time modern explorers arrived, There was almost no visible trace left. If that shocks you, pause for a moment and subscribe, because this pattern repeats across the globe. In Southeast Asia, the ancient city of Angkor was once the largest pre-industrial urban center in the world. It had advanced hydraulic engineering, vast reservoirs, and a population comparable to modern megacities. And yet it was abandoned, not conquered in a single battle, not erased overnight. Climate instability combined with over-engineering pushed the system beyond its limits. Floods damaged infrastructure. Droughts crippled agriculture. The city slowly emptied. Jungle growth hit everything. For centuries, Angkor was reduced to legend. If not for archaeology, we might never have known how advanced it truly was. Then there are the deserts. Across the Sahara and Arabian Peninsula, satellite scans have revealed outlines of ancient cities buried beneath sand dunes, trade hubs, fortified settlements, agricultural zones, civilizations that thrived when the climate was wetter and more stable. As deserts expanded, these societies faced a brutal choice: migrate or die. Those who left survived elsewhere. Those who stayed vanished. Sand erased their homes. Wind erased their roads. Time erased their names. What remains are shadows, stone foundations, broken tools, strange alignments that hint at organized planning but tell no full story. And then there's the ocean. Sea levels have risen dramatically since the last ice age. Entire coastlines that once supported human settlements are now underwater. This means some of the earliest civilizations may be submerged, unreachable and unexplored. Off the coast of India, Japan, and the Mediterranean, underwater ruins challenge traditional timelines. Stone structures, stair-like formations, walls that appear too geometric to be natural. Some researchers argue these are natural formations. Others believe they are remnants of ancient coastal civilizations lost to rising seas. If even one of these sites turns out to be artificial, it would rewrite human history. But here's the problem. Civilizations hidden by nature don't leave clear historical records. Writing decays. Wood rots. Metals corrode. What survives is stone. And even stone doesn't last forever when buried, flooded, or fractured. This creates a dangerous illusion that civilizations without evidence never existed. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Many ancient societies may have been technologically advanced in ways we don't recognize, using materials that left no trace, or knowledge that was passed orally and died with its people. And this leads to one of the most uncomfortable questions modern historians face. How many civilizations are missing from a human story simply because their environments erase them too well? We already know history favors survivors. The civilizations we study are the ones lucky enough to leave durable ruins. Everyone else is forgotten. And what's even more unsettling is this. Some of these hidden civilizations may have collapsed not because they were primitive, but because they were experimenting, adapting, and pushing limits we don't yet understand. If entire cities can vanish under jungle canopies, sand seas, and ocean depths, what does that say about how fragile our understanding of the past really is? If this part made you question how much of history is still buried, don't stop now. In the next part, we'll explore civilizations that may have been intentionally erased by enemies, by successors, or by history itself. And if you want a full story, stay subscribed and keep watching, because the past is far less complete than we were ever taught. What if some ancient civilizations didn't disappear because of nature, climate, or time, but because someone wanted them gone? Not just defeated, but erased. No records, no memory, no trace left behind. If that idea sends a chill down your spine, stay with me, because this part explores the darkest possibility of all. Civilizations that may have been deliberately removed from history. Throughout human history, winners write the story. Conquerors decide what is remembered and what is destroyed. Libraries are burned. Temples are demolished. Languages are silenced. And when this happens on a large enough scale, entire civilizations can vanish as if they never existed. One of the most famous examples of historical erasure is the Library of Alexandria. It wasn't just a building. It was a collection of humanity's accumulated knowledge. Maps, scientific texts, histories of civilizations that no longer exist. When it was destroyed, we didn't just lose books. We lost entire perspectives of the ancient world. Now imagine this scenario repeated multiple times across history. In Mesoamerica, when the Spanish arrived, they didn't just conquer land, they destroyed memory. Thousands of Mayan and Aztec manuscripts were burned because they were considered dangerous or heretical. These texts contained astronomy, mathematics, history, and mythology stretching back centuries. What survived is only a fraction. And here's the disturbing part. The civilizations themselves were described by the conquerors as primitive. Yet the same people had calendars more accurate than Europe's, complex mathematics, and advanced urban planning. If their written records had survived, our understanding of human development might look very different today. If this makes you wonder how much knowledge was intentionally destroyed, pause here and stay subscribed, because this pattern is not unique. In ancient China, entire philosophical schools were wiped out during periods of unification. Books were burned. Scholars were executed. Only state-approved knowledge survived. This wasn't accidental. It was deliberate control of history. What we now call ancient Chinese history is already filtered, clean of ideas that didn't align with power. And then there are civilizations that vanished so completely that we only know they existed because someone tried to destroy them. Take Carthage. Carthage was once one of the most powerful civilizations in the Mediterranean. Advanced navy, complex trade networks, strong economy. When Rome finally defeated Carthage, they didn't just conquer it, they annihilated it. The city was burned, the population enslaved or killed. Even the memory of Carthaginian achievements was suppressed. For centuries, everything we knew about Carthage came from Roman sources, their enemies. Only recently have archaeologists begun to uncover evidence that challenges Rome's version of events. Now ask yourself, how many Carthages never got a second chance to be rediscovered? Some civilizations may have been erased because they challenged dominant beliefs. There are legends across cultures of advanced societies destroyed by gods, floods, or fire. Plato's Atlantis is the most famous example, often dismissed as myth. But myths don't appear from nowhere. They are echoes of memory, distorted, symbolic, but rooted in something real. What if Atlantis wasn't one place, but many? Civilizations that reached levels of organization or knowledge that threatened existing powers. Civilizations whose ideas were too different, too dangerous, or too disruptive to survive politically. Erasing them wouldn't require destroying every stone. It would only require destroying their stories. Once language disappears, memory follows. Once memory disappears, history becomes silence. Even today, archaeology is not immune to bias. Discoveries that don't fit established timelines are often ignored, reclassified, or explained away, not always out of conspiracy, but because rewriting history is uncomfortable. It challenges careers, textbooks, and deeply held assumptions. But progress often begins with discomfort, and this raises a chilling question. Are there civilizations we haven't found yet? Not because they are buried, but because we are not ready to accept them? Civilizations that suggest humanity is older, more complex, and more cyclical than we want to believe. If knowledge has been lost, erased, or hidden before, it can happen again, and maybe it already has. In the final part, we will explore the most unsettling idea of all, that some vanished civilizations may not be gone forever. Their knowledge, symbols, and warnings might still be influencing the modern world in ways we don't recognize. What if vanished civilizations were never truly gone? What if they didn't disappear, but transformed, fragmented, and quietly passed their knowledge forward in symbols, myths, and structures that still shape our world today? This final part takes us beyond disappearance and into something far more unsettling. The possibility that ancient civilizations still influence us, silently, invisibly, and intentionally. Across cultures, the same symbols appear again and again. The serpent, the sun disk, the all-seeing eye, the step pyramid. These symbols emerge in civilizations separated by oceans and thousands of years, long before modern contact was possible. Mainstream history often calls this coincidence. But coincidence becomes harder to accept when patterns repeat with mathematical precision. Consider ancient architecture. Megalithic sites across the world share striking similarities in construction techniques. Massive stone blocks fitted so tightly that modern tools struggle to replicate the precision. Peru, Egypt, Turkey, and Asia all show evidence of stonework far beyond what their supposed technology should allow. And if these cultures were isolated, how did they solve the same engineering problems in the same ways? Some researchers believe knowledge didn't vanish. It traveled. When civilizations collapsed, survivors carried fragments of understanding with them. Astronomy became mythology. Science became ritual. Engineering became sacred geometry. Over time, advanced knowledge was hidden inside stories, so it could survive periods of chaos without being destroyed. If that idea intrigues you, stay with this moment and stay subscribed, because this is where history begins to blur into something much deeper. Look at ancient myths of gods descending from the sky to teach humanity agriculture, writing, mathematics, and law. These stories exist in Sumer, Mesoamerica, India, and Africa. The gods have different names, but their roles are almost identical. They arrive after disasters. They teach civilization. Then they disappear. What if these gods were not supernatural, but remnants of an earlier advanced society, reduced by catastrophe and remembered as divine by those who came after? It would explain why knowledge appears suddenly in the archaeological record, fully formed, without clear development stages. It would explain why early civilizations seem to leap forward instead of slowly evolving. And it would explain why some knowledge feels out of place, too advanced for its time. Even modern science occasionally stumbles upon ancient understanding it cannot explain. Precise astronomical alignments, accurate measurements of Earth, knowledge of precession encoded in temples thousands of years old. These aren't guesses. They are calculations. Someone knew, and they wanted that knowledge to survive. Secret societies throughout history may have acted as guardians of fragments of this ancient understanding. Whether through symbolism, architecture, or ritual, knowledge was preserved quietly, away from destruction, not because it was evil, but because it was powerful. Power attracts suppression, and suppression creates silence. This leads to an uncomfortable realization. History is not a straight line. It is a cycle. Civilizations rise, peak, collapse, and rise again. Each time, something is lost. Each time, something is remembered. And each time, humanity believes it is at the beginning, never the middle. What if our modern world is not the first advanced civilization? What if it is simply the latest? The cities beneath our cities, the myths beneath our religions, and the symbols beneath our flags may be echoes of worlds long gone. Worlds that face collapse, just as we do today. Worlds that may have tried to warn the future. Warnings encoded in stone. Warnings encoded in stories. Warnings encoded in silence. And here's the most haunting thought of all. Future civilizations may one day debate our disappearance the same way we debate theirs. They may find fragments of our cities, pieces of our technology, symbols they cannot understand. And they may ask the same question we ask now. How could something so advanced vanish? History doesn't end. It hides. And if this journey through vanished civilizations has changed how you see the past, stay curious. Keep watching and subscribe, because the greatest mysteries of history are not behind us. They are beneath us, and sometimes within us,